Hello friends, I am Arpit and now I am here with the Yojana analysis for the month of August 2024. Now as we cover every month, but unfortunately we were not able to cover it last month due to some unavoidable circumstances. But yes, before that we've covered it for each and every month. So we will be continuing this practice from now as well. So we cover it in three parts. So this is going to be the first part where we are going to talk about the cellular jail, saga of resistance, Jambudweep Proclamation, these two topics. Let me tell you guys that this month's Yojana magazine is all about the untold stories of the freedom struggle since it is the month of August. And this is going to be an interesting, I would say, edition, and you will be hearing about certain stories of the freedom struggle by you know uh, the Indians at that time, and these stories are untold in the history books, or they're not so much glorified. So first two topics: cellular jail that was there in Port Blair, Andaman and Nicobar, Kalapani which he used to call it; Jambudweep Proclamation, this was done in 1801 in South India. This is also an interesting story to tell. Then untold stories of freedom struggle from Northeast India. So it is generally believed that Northeast India has contributed less, but yes, there are certain untold stories from there as well. Contribution of Indian languages to the freedom movement. This is something which is, I would say, unique take, because we might not have read something about this in our history textbooks as of now. And last is youth consciousness for Indian freedom in Bengal. So Bengal definitely was a hotbed for freedom struggle right from the very beginning, because it was that place where movements like Swadeshi movement and all started. And the strategic presence of British East India Company was also too much in this province of Bengal. Calcutta initially was the capital of India, made by the Britishers. Later on, it was shifted to Delhi. So let us get started, and we'll be dealing with all these, topics. Now, the first topic, cellular jail, the saga of resistance. This jail was made in Port Blair, Andaman and Nicobar Islands. It was popularly known as Kalapani, with this aim of giving rigorous punishment to the freedom fighters. And this jail obviously was built by the Britishers. Now, some facts about this jail. Location: cellular jail, also known as Kalapani, is situated in Port Blair, Andaman and Nicobar Island. Its remote location was chosen to prevent escape and isolate prisoners from the rest of the world. Basically, it was like, where will you go after escaping? There is oceans all around, and there's nothing else on the island. Construction start date 1896. The Britishers started constructing it. Completion 1906. Labor: constructed by convict labor under harsh conditions using local stone and concrete. Purpose: built to exile and punish political prisoners and revolutionaries opposing British colonial rule over here in India. It was a direct consequence of 1857 Sepoy Mutiny. After that only, the Britishers started thinking about it, that we need to have certain place where we need to give harsh punishment to those people who are trying to raise their voices against the Raj, that is the British Raj. So it was like that. Historical impact of this jail: this jail became a symbol of British cruelty and was intended to suppress the spirit of resistance among Indian freedom fighters. So this was quite popular. Kala pani ki saza ho gayi means harsh punishment has been given to you due to the crime which you have committed. And what was the crime most of the times? It was simply you are raising your voice against the Britishers. Now, key facts about this jail. When we talk about the architecture of this jail, the designer was a British architect, J.A.H.W. Macpherson. Design theory: based on the Pennsylvania system or separate system, which required complete isolation of each inmate. So the inmates were also not allowed to stay with each other. So that was basically the theory of complete isolation. This system aimed for total separation to prevent communication between prisoners in the same or different wings. Layout: the jail features 7 wings radiating from a central watchtower resembling a spider's web. So basically, it is like this: central watchtower, then it has, like concentric circles, and then here it has 7 wings like this. It is there. Cell design, each cell approximately 4.5 into 2.7 meters was designed for solitary confinement with thick walls, small windows and limited ventilation, creating a suffocating environment. Watchtower. The central tower allowed guards to monitor all prisoners, reinforcing the oppressive nature of the facility. So, the I would say surveillance was too high of that time. The living conditions were pathetic, ventilation and all were poor. The walls of those cells were very thick, so it was impossible for breaking those cells. Operational period, it got inaugurated in 1906, started getting constructed in 1896. It took 10 years. Closure 1947, Government of India closed it because it was basically a symbol of oppression by the Britishers. And now it is being used as a museum kind of, where people go and visit the jail and see and hear to the stories of the people who were imprisoned in that jail. Now it has been turned into a national memorial. Declared in 1969, the site has been developed to educate visitors about atrocities committed during colonial rule and the heroism of those imprisoned over there. The freedom fighters associated with the jail, means those who had been imprisoned in the jail. First is V.D. Savarkar, role prominent revolutionary, poet and politician, known for his opposition to British rule and the concept of Hindutva. Two life terms, 50 years in 1911 for anti-colonial activities, but he was released in the year 1924. His contributions played a significant role in mobilizing support for Indian independence. So that is why B.D. Savarkar is basically a revered figure. Second is Bakuteshwar Dutt, B.K. Dutt, revolutionary freedom fighter involved in the 1929 Central Legislative Assembly bombing with Bhagat Singh. So he was confined over there. Sentence, life imprisonment, exiled to Cellular jail. Death, July 20, 1965 at age 54. So he died after independence. So he also served over there. Fazle Haq Khairabadi. His role, he was involved in inciting violence after the 1857 rebellion. 1857 revolt, generally referred to as the first war of independence, but that has been contentious claim according to some historians. And in this video only we will see that why 1857 was not the first war of independence. But coming back to this, Fazl Khairabadi, he was involved in inciting violence against the Britishers after the 1857 revolt. Life imprisonment was the sentence in Cellular jail with his property confiscated. That was obviously after 1906 when this jail was constructed. So they were also punishing people with retrospective effect and putting them over there. Then Barendra Kumar Ghosh, BK Ghosh, involved in the Aripur bomb case and attempted assassination of Kingsword. Sentence, initially death, reduced to life imprisonment, deported to Cellular jail in 1909. In the formative years of this jail only, since this jail was made in 1906. Next is Sushil Das Gupta, role member of the Yugantar Dal, involved in Putia mail robbery case of 1929. Sentence, imprisoned in Cellular jail after escaping from Medinipur prison. So he was already imprisoned in Medinipur, but he escaped from that jail. He was caught and then he was sent to this Cellular jail, from where escaping was a distant dream. Now, the significance of this jail. First, it was a symbol of resistance for us, the Indians, because the people who went there lived and survived in harsh conditions. And obviously, that was due to the atrocities done by the Britishers. Post independence use. After India's independence, the jail was preserved as a national memorial. It now functions as a museum and educational site commemorating the struggle for freedom and educating visitors about colonial history and the heroic sacrifices. When I talk about the modern day, the site attracts visitors from across the world and serves as a powerful symbol of resistance and resilience. It helps in educating new generations about brutalities of colonial rule and valor of the freedom fighters who endured these hardships. So that is what, how, or this is significant. Now next is Jambudweep Proclamation. Now first of all, we need to understand what Jambudweep means. Jambudweep is equal to India as per many ancient inscriptions. including the Ashokan inscriptions. And you know, what is this Jambudweep Proclamation? Now, in 1801, there were two brothers in South India. They were good fighters, and they were there in the I would say uh, kingdom of Ramanathapuram also it is called as present day Tamil Nadu. It is that face of Tamil Nadu, that portion of Tamil Nadu which is facing Sri Lanka. In fact, the Kachativu island was, you know, uh, proclaimed by the Raja of Ramnad under as part of his zameen. So these two were the fighters over there, and these two people understood the intentions of the Britishers, and you know they were the first ones to rise against the Britishers, and that is why this is referred to as the First War of Independence. And they declared a proclamation in Ramnad, and that proclamation standard or was applicable for the entire country because the British was slowly and spreading in the entire country, and that is why this proclamation is termed as the Jambudweep Proclamation. Now, what was there in that proclamation? In the proclamation of 1801, the Maruthu brothers, the name of the brothers were Maruthu brothers, said the Europeans, violating their faith, have deceitfully made the kingdom their own and considering the inhabitants as dogs, accordingly exercise authority over them. There existing no unity and friendship among you, the above castes, who, not being aware of the duplicity of these Europeans, have not only inconsiderately culminated each other, but have absolutely surrendered the kingdom to them. In those countries now governed by these low wretches, the inhabitants have become poor and the rice has become water. South Indian Rebellion, the First War of Independence, 1800-1801. So basically, these Maruthu brothers are telling its people that how things have been miserable where the Britishers are ruling, miserable for the original inhabitants. And these Britishers are taking advantage of the already divided Indian society in further dividing them because they are wooing the upper castes and they are mistreating the lower caste. About Maruthu brothers, when we talk about them, the British East India Company, we will start the story with colonial expansion, then we'll come to the Maruthu brothers. British East India Company basically initially came to India for trade but used military and political tactics to expand control. Their influence grew through alliances and conflicts with the local rulers. Now, there was this Nawab of Arcot in South India. Muhammad Ali, the Nawab of Arcot, ceded significant administrative control to the British, including tax collection and governance. This led to the widespread impoverishment of local populations and increased British dominance in Arcot. Background of the Maruthu brothers. When we talk about the Maruthu brothers family, Periya Maruthu, the elder, and Chinna Maruthu, the younger, were born to Moka Palanisamy Thevar and his wife Ponatha. They served the second king of Sivagangai, Muthu Vaduganathan Thevar. So they were the servants of the king, their parents, and these two, boys were born to those parents who were serving the king. Training and role: both brothers were trained in military tactics and artillery. They became trusted aides to the king, with Periya Maruthu serving as a military commander and Chinna Maruthu as a key administrator. Conflict with the British actions. Following failed negotiations, British launched a brutal attack. Britishers earlier tried to negotiate with them, the rulers. The negotiations failed because these people were aware about the intentions of the Britishers. Now, when the negotiations failed, now one day the Britishers killed the king in a brutal attack, killing the king and queen of, the queen of Siva Gangai. The Maruthu brothers fled with the first queen, Velu Nachiyar, seeking refuge in the neighboring kingdom of Virupakshi, ruled by Gopal Nayak. Returned to Sivagangai, they, after 7 years, with the queen, first queen, because one queen and the king was killed, but the first queen was taken away by them, saved. For 7 years, they stayed there in Sivagangai. The Maruthu brothers returned to Sivagangai. Periya Maruthu assumed command of the army, while Chinna Maruthu became the chief minister. They sought to restore their kingdom and resist British rule. They first of all gathered public support and They got that public support and then they released the proclamation, which was their targeting the Britishers. Issuance of the proclamation, date and context. In 1801, the Maruthu brothers, having united with other South Indian kings opposed to British rule, issued the Jambudweep Proclamation. Content: Proclamation was a powerful declaration against British oppression. It criticized British deceit and their brutal policies towards Indian rulers and people. The proclamation condemned the lack of unity among the Indian castes because the upper castes were on the side of the Britishers. The Britishers were very smart in, taking them on their side, and the upper caste naturally dominated over the lower caste. So the Britishers knew it very well and they took advantage of this situation, which had facilitated British dominance. And we've seen the text of this particular declaration. Now, symbolism and public display. Cultural significance. Jambudweepa, an ancient term in Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain cosmology, refers to a large landmass or continent, often the Indian subcontinent. The Maruthu brothers used this term to evoke a sense of national identity and unity in the entire country. That why only South Indian rulers should unite against the Britishers. They are outsiders. The entire Jambudweep should be united, and that is why this name was given to this declaration. Public display. The proclamation was prominently displayed on the walls of significant locations like Sri Rangam Temple and the Rock Fort in Tamil Nadu. This act was risky but symbolized their defiance and commitment to the cause. So, this was basically there. What was the British response and execution after that? Now, British reaction was a military campaign. British were enraged by the Maruthu brothers' defiance and launched a comprehensive military campaign to suppress the rebellion. They sought to crush any organized resistance to their rule. Capture and execution. Date October 24, 1801. They captured and executed. Details: the Maruthu brothers, along with around 500 of their supporters, were captured by the British forces. The executions were carried out without legal proceedings, described as anomalous and irregular by the contemporary observers. So they were executed without judicial trial. Aftermath: the British executed the male members of the Maruthu family to prevent future resistance. The Doraisamy, the only surviving son of Periya Maruthu, was exiled to Malaysia. So, this is what happened to them and their family. But they've definitely left a legacy. Historical significance is early resistance. The Jambudweep Proclamation is notable as one of the earliest and most organized efforts to challenge the British rule. And that is why it is known as the first resistance or the first known resistance or the first war of independence. It is precursor to independence movements. Definitely 1801 was the year when this happened. Now, enduring legacy, it is a symbol of courage of the Maruthu brothers who decided to fight the mighty British, and they were also so much visionary that first of all they collected all the South Indian rulers with them, and they wanted to collect all the Indian rulers against the Britishers, feeling this sense of or I would say having this sense of nationalism or this we feeling among them. Then, historical context: the rebellion set a precedent for future uprisings and was a precursor to more widespread movements like the Vellore Mutiny of 1806 and the Sepoy Mutiny of 1857. So, that was the legacy. It basically had set the tone that if the Maruthu brothers can do, definitely other places can also have these kind of, I would say, protests against the Britishers. So they started kind of rotating the wheel against the Britishers, and finally it took around 147 years from their efforts to get independence. That was 1947. Now with this, we've come to an end of this first part of Yojana for the month of August. Now we will be dealing with the rest two topics in the next part. Till then, stay tuned. Namaste. Jai Hind.